When you listen to your audience, they'll tell you what they want. They'll never tell you what they want if you don't first start creating something and putting it out there. That's why we always say, just ship it in Seth Godin style. Just ship it, because once it's out there, they'll tell you if they like it or they don't like it, or they like it, but they also want this or that. And that's how I've built my entire business, listening to my audience.
Welcome to the Certified Badass Online Marketing Podcast, where being a badass has less to do with what you wear and what music you listen to, and everything to do with whether you've got the thriving online business of your dreams. I'm your renegade thinking Harvard Law grad turned online entrepreneur host, Bobby Klink. In my years building my thriving business, the most important lesson I've learned is that being a badass online marketer isn't about secret strategies or ninja tactics. It's about doing the basic stuff right and showing the F up. So each week here on the show, you'll get clear, easy to execute guidance on how to build your online business and a swift kick in the ass or two to make sure you're getting it done. Hey there, welcome to episode 169 of the Certified Badass Online Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Bobby Klink, and I'm excited for today's show. Now, I'm excited for every show. Let me be honest. You hear me say that at the beginning of every one of these episodes. But today is particularly exciting. And exciting because I got a friend today. I'm not by myself. Now, technically, when I'm recording this, it's not today. I actually did this interview yesterday. But I have a friend on this episode. Specifically, I've got my friend, Amy Porterfield, here to talk about kind of business and building a business with digital courses and memberships and how you kind of make it all fit together. And it's a lot of fun. And if you don't know Amy, she is my first true mentor and teacher in the online space. She was my teacher before she was my mentor. In 2007, she was my teacher when I first signed up for her list building course. Then in 2018, she became much more than a teacher, became kind of a mentor. I became her legal guy. She helped me in a lot of ways. I helped her, and I became very active in her communities. So that was kind of 2018. Then 2019, last year, we built a friendship even more. And I got to the point that I was an ambassador in her program, Digital Course Academy, both in the January launch and then the September launch last year, where I was one of the coaches who helped her students get success in building their online businesses. So that's kind of the short history of my relationship with Amy. Now I just cause trouble for her. She's kind of passionate about webinars, and candidly, I love doing webinars too. But I kind of like messing with her because a lot of times her students will say, well, I followed your launch plan, but I didn't do a webinar and I didn't get the results I want. she gets on a soapbox. And just so you know, when Amy's on a soapbox, she's much nicer, even in her tough love, than I normally am in my love. So she's pretty nice about it, but she always talks about that. And so I always mess with her, and I'll drop comments into various posts in her group saying, but really, do we have to do a webinar just to mess with her? Because that's the nature of our relationship. She had me speak at her event last year where I gave a moment of inspiration. And so it's been a fun kind of, time of having her as a teacher, a mentor, and a coach. And this is actually her third appearance on the show. The first time she came on was way back on episode 23. I won an engagement contest in one of her groups, which is the only reason it happened. At the time, I don't know, I maybe had 100, 150 people download the podcast each month. Pretty sure it wasn't just my mom 150 times, but I'm not sure how many people were downloading it. And Amy came on and she gave a great episode. So go back to episode 23. It was all about simplicity, keeping your business simple. And then we talked list building because that's kind of one of the things that Amy is always talking about. Then last year, in the lead up to the September launch of her Digital Course Academy, because I was an affiliate, I had her come on the show in episode 92, and we talked about building a digital course business, how you kind of put together an entire business around digital courses. Again, a great episode. And that was about like just thinking about not just creating a digital course, but building a business around your digital course or digital courses. So that was the last episode. Now here in this episode, again, I've talked about it in the last couple of weeks. She's coming up. She's launching her Digital Course Academy again next month. I'm again an affiliate because I think it's a great program. I wouldn't have been an ambassador if I didn't think it was fantastic. And I think it is a great way to learn. If you want to build an online course, if you want to build and launch digital courses, you really should learn from Amy. And quick side note, don't make the mistake I did. Back in 2017, I think I had signed up for her list building course, but I'm not sure when I signed up for that exactly. But I knew I wanted to create a digital course. Safeguard Your Online Genius is what it was called. And I knew Amy taught about that stuff, about how to create an online course. But I said, I can figure it out. I don't need to pay for a course about how to create courses. Well, I won't bore you with the details, but I ended up spending $25,000 between Facebook ads, a Facebook ads manager, getting a designer to do slides for me, getting software rating and coaching on the software. I don't even remember what else. And at the end of the day, $25,000 into a launch, I made one sale for $697. And that woman asked for a refund on day 29 of a 30-day refund policy. Yeah, I was penny wise, pound foolish. I feel quite certain if I would have taken Amy's course back then, I wouldn't have made that mistake because I would have figured it out and done it the right way. Luckily, I learned my lessons. So before I launched my next course, I was in her program and I was really deep into how she taught things. And so now I know how to create a course. I know how to launch a course. I know how to do all of those things. But in this episode, in this interview, we're not just talking about digital courses. Yes, we talk digital courses because, that's what Amy loves. It's her passion. It's really what she enjoys doing. And, look, we're talking about it in the lead up for Digital Course Academy. So if you're thinking about creating a digital course, we wanted to give you some guidance, give you some actionable tips and information to really be thinking about. But we go deeper. We talked about the overall journey that our customers go on and how Amy now doesn't just have digital courses. She also has a membership. And we talk about things kind of like I talked about last week in last week's episode, kind of like my business. Amy makes more money from her digital courses for less effort than she does from her membership, but she still has the membership. So she can continue to support people and kind of see them through to growing into bigger and better things. And she talks about me as an example. Like in 2017, I was a lawyer. I was this stuffy lawyer with no online business. And look at me now. I'm a completely different person. And she talked about and joked about like seeing that evolution in me has been fun for her. Well, she likes doing that. So we talk about those things because it's kind of what Amy and I do. We talk about business and we have a good time. So that's what you have in store for you when you listen to the interview. It's great, packed full of information from Amy, as always. But before we get to the interview, again, Amy is in the middle of the lead up to her launch, and I'm an affiliate because I know the program is great. If you are thinking about creating an online course, but you're not sure, again, I listened to last week's episode. I've given you a couple of great options for things you can kind of, get into her world, get some information about. But right now, what you can do is you can go get your hands on her Ultimate Course Creation Starter Kit. It helps you to start thinking about kind of the decisions you'll have to make as you're building your online course and make the right decisions for you. It's a meaty guide. It's not like a little 5-page guide. I don't know. It's 20 pages or something. It's got a lot of info in there. You can get your hands on it by going to bobbyklink.com/starter kit. bobbyklink.com/starter kit to get your hands on the Ultimate Course Creation Starter Kit. Now, without further ado, here's my interview with Amy Porterfield. Welcome back to the show, Amy. How are you today?
Well, I am wonderful. Thanks so much for having me.
You are, you're not my first three-peat, but you are the second person who's been on this show 3 times. So,
I want to know who else has done this.
Take a guess. It's one of our mutual friends.
It's got to be James Wedmore.
No, he's actually never been. He's only been on my show twice, but that was really one episode that broke up into 2. No, Tarzan.
It could be Tarzan, though. We love Tarzan, don't we? She's amazing.
Yes. So she had the first honor, and so you are the next person. So I am happy to have you here. Now, I've done an intro for you in the intro, but it won't be as good as you can do. So I don't know who in the world doesn't know who you are. But can you introduce yourself to my audience, to maybe if there's someone here who's never heard of Amy Porterfield?
There will definitely be people that don't know me. So if I've never met you yet, again, my name is Amy Porterfield, and I always say that I help entrepreneurs or budding entrepreneurs figure out their expertise, their knowledge, their know-how in terms of putting that into a digital course. So I focus a lot on list building because that builds your business. And then my primary focus is helping you turn your expertise into a digital course that you can launch online over and over again. So that's essentially what I do. I started in corporate for many, many, many years. And 11 years ago, I branched out on my own to create the business I have today.
Yeah, and I first came into your world in 2017. I signed up at the time. It was called List Builders Lab, and I think I got in before you went to List Builders Lab 2.0.
Oh, so you're an OG. I love it.
Well, I think, and then it became List Builder Society. So I can't keep track, but I had you on about a year ago, and at the time we talked about how your entire business was an online course business.
Yes.
At the time, had you even changed over to List Builder Society last year, or did that come after?
It might have come after. We started to look at like our product suite, and it made more sense to call it Society versus Lab, which is like the slightest change. But essentially, it's the same type of course. But yeah, last year when we talked, that was the only thing I had was digital courses.
Yeah, you had two digital courses. You had List Builders Society or Lab, whichever one it was at the time, and Digital Course Academy. But now you have a membership.
Right.
And tell me about why you made the decision to add a membership first, but then I want to talk about your overall business model.
Okay, great. So the reason we added a membership to the experience inside my community is because so many of my students were saying after my signature course, Digital Course Academy, they were saying, Amy, we don't want you to go away. We haven't yet launched our course, or we're still in the trenches creating, and we don't want you to go away because we want to troubleshoot. We've got questions. We want to be held accountable. And my program is 12 weeks. I'm live almost every single day during the week in that 12 weeks. And so they get a lot of me. So to pull back completely and then they don't have any support from me, it just didn't feel right. And I know that creating a course and launching is something you do over and over again. And I really wanted to be a part of my students' journey. And so I knew that the next thing after Digital Course Academy was to go on a long-term journey with my students. Best decision I ever made, because my Momentum students feel like family. They've been in the trenches. They've been with me for a long time. I get to see their business grow. I get to help them. So that's essentially what it was. I needed an extension on the back end of my Digital Course Academy program.
Yeah, and I'm there just to make wisecracks about webinars, pretty much.
You basically are there to cause problems.
Well, that's why I'm everywhere. So that doesn't really do it. But so what I love is now your product suite. You have a course about list building. You have a course about creating an online or digital course, and then you have a membership, which is basically the ongoing support.
Yes.
What's perfect about it is literally all of them are completely aligned. But I guess here's what I wonder. How do you imagine people coming into your world and going through the journey?
It's a great question. And we've spent a lot of time in the business talking about this. You know, when I started 11 years ago, if you told me, can you tell me your customer journey? I'd look at you with a blank face like, what are you talking about? If you even asked me 6-7 years ago, I wouldn't be very clear. I could have been clearer back then. I just didn't know how to look at it. So anybody listening that's starting from scratch, you likely won't have this figured out, but it's nice to hear so you can look forward to having something like this figured out. But if you're a few years in, you could do it now. I wish I did it sooner. So essentially, how I want people to go through my business, it's really two different ways. Number one, if you're starting from scratch, 0 people on your email list, you're just getting going, you're likely in a 9-to-5 or just left a 9-to-5, or you're in a 9-to-5 and you've got the side hustle going on. You typically start by listening to my podcast, Online Marketing Made Easy. It's free. You get a hit of online marketing every single week. And that's typically how people get into my world. They quickly are invited over to List Builders Society, which is a starter program. That's what I call it. It's getting your feet wet with list building, how to set things up, how to set the foundation, how to get the ball rolling with list building. From there, I invite people into Digital Course Academy, which is my signature program. And that is how to build a digital course from scratch and how to launch it online. Many of my students have never built a digital course and they've never launched anything online. So it's really from scratch how to get there. And then of course, from there, you get invited into Momentum, which is my membership experience after you go through digital course. What's unique about Momentum is you cannot get into my membership without going through Digital Course Academy first. So it's very exclusive in that sense. But in an ideal world, podcast, then List Builder Society, then Digital Course Academy, and then Momentum. However, a lot of people skip List Builder Society and go right into Digital Course Academy because they've started to grow their list. They have that foundation. They might have 100, 200 people on their email list. They got the ball rolling. And so they just go into Digital Course Academy. It's not a prerequisite. It's just if you're starting from scratch. But like if someone came in and they were a student of yours first, they'd already have that list building foundation. So they wouldn't need List Builder Society.
Yeah, hopefully that's true because, people in my world, I've told them a million times they better be building their list. But
yes,
what I love about this, and again, I think this was some of the what some people get wrong, is they have all of these different products, but they can only really sell one product to each person. And we've all heard the concept that it costs, 10 times as much to find a new customer versus to get an existing customer to buy again. And so I love that essentially your idea is let me get a customer once and I can, offer them multiple products that can help them at different phases of their business.
It really is a unique experience because as a course creator like you and I, or people that are creating content in general, it's really fun to see your students grow and what they've done. I mean, Bobby, even just thinking about you in 2017, you came into this world as a lawyer, like a super skilled, knowledgeable, huge business behind you lawyer. Like you weren't like just trying to figure it out. And you come into this world and your whole world looks different. Would you agree that your business looks dramatically different than it did when I met you in 2017?
So when I met you in 2017, I didn't have an online business. I had the dream of an online business. And you won't even remember this, but I was one of those people who would be at the Q&As in the Insiders Club asking because I couldn't seem to get my messaging right. And so I couldn't seem to get people into my world. And so I remember those days. And yeah, it is a very, very different place where I am now.
A few short years and you're financially doing amazing. You have a loyal following. You have a dramatically different business. That's what I live for. A lot of my students come into my world still being in corporate or wanting to make a shift. And I've got story after story of different ages, different environments, different experiences that they've made dramatic shifts. That's why I love building an online business. You can do it no matter what your circumstances in terms of what your old life look like and what you want your new life to look like.
Yeah. And candidly, my biggest difference is I actually have fun in my business now, which I didn't used to. So
yes.
There's that, which is nice in and of itself. But so listeners, what I want you to get, what Amy was talking about going from the podcast to List Builder Society to DCA up to Momentum is something you maybe have heard it called the profit ladder, the Ascension model. It's basically an overall journey where you're taking people from free all the way to higher priced offers based on what's right for them. So you've heard me talk about it a little bit, but I'm going to keep talking about that because I want you developing that too. So with that, now, Amy, I do want to talk though about why it was and the business you built as just a course creator, because you built a crazy good business even before you had a membership. Talk about what your business was, your success, all of those things so people who maybe don't know you can hear about what that was like and what you can do with just courses in your business.
Yeah, even though I have a membership, I have to tell you that I am very partial to a digital course business. And so when I was still in corporate. I worked for Tony Robbins. We talked about that the last time I was on here. And I got to watch Tony start creating digital courses and launching them online. And I was mesmerized by the freedom behind that. And what I mean by that is financial freedom and lifestyle freedom. And so I quickly learned that when you have a digital course, you could create one digital course, and I firmly believe this, one digital course that you can launch over and over again and make a really good living with just one digital course. And essentially, that's what I did way back in the day when I had my first really big digital course called the Profit Lab. And I sold it for around $300, $400 at the time. And I launched that 3 or 4 different times throughout a few years. And the first time I launched it, I made $30,000. I often tease, I know where I was sitting in my little condo in Carlsbad. I know what I was wearing, what I was thinking. Like, it was a very impressionable moment in my life because I realized I just cracked the code. I learned how to create a course and launch it online all by myself and made $30,000. That is freedom in it of itself, and that is confidence. I had courage, and then at that point, courage to do it. At that point, now I had confidence to prove that it worked. And so that was so long ago. But I decided to take the same course because I'm not a super creative kind of entrepreneur. I don't have tons and tons of ideas, and so I thought, well, that worked. Let's do it again. I think that's one of my secret sauces in my business, in the sense that I'm not always looking for the next shiny thing. I'm looking to do the same thing over, but even better. And so I did it over again and over again. I made the course better, the launch better. By the very last time I launched that, I made $950,000 in about a 2-week period with the same course I had started with 2 years ago. And so that's when I realized, holy cow, one course really can make an amazing profit in your business. And because I value lifestyle, because I don't want to be working every minute all the time, and I don't like a lot of spinning plates in the air. I don't like coaching, consulting, mastermind, membership, courses, speaking on stage, doing this, doing that. I don't like all of that at once. So I thought, wow, I could create a really simple business with just one single digital course. Now, the secret is, once you create a profitable digital course, your students will tell you what they want next. So there will always be likely another course. I retired that course in order to create something new. But of course, you could have 2 different digital courses at the same time, but you don't have to. And I think that's what was so appealing to me. I wanted to work when I wanted to work, how I wanted to work, where I wanted to work. But more importantly, I genuinely wanted to help people. And I knew I had the skill set around knowledge. And at the time, Facebook marketing and social media, I could teach that. And so that's really how this all began. And even if I didn't have my membership, I could still have an incredibly profitable business with just 2 digital courses.
Yeah. So there's a couple things out there I want to dig into. And it's funny because you talked about you don't have a lot of ideas, so you just do the same thing over and over again. I think that's a blessing for you, because my problem is I have the classic entrepreneurial squirrel brain where I'm like shiny object here, there, and yonder, and I have to fight against it. But it was very interesting. I saw there's this TEDx talk about being a multi-potentialite, which is someone who has a lot of different interests and goes for one thing and then another and another. And I saw these people in a digital business group talking about like, well, I'm just going to try to do a bunch of stuff. And I was saying there, no, don't do that. Pick one thing, focus, make it work. So I love that you did that. But now I've got to ask you a question, because you talked about this. Momentum, your membership. Now, having seen your business, I have to feel like you and your team spend a lot more of your time and effort on momentum these days than you do on your course. Is that fair to say?
It is fair to say, which is one of the reasons I probably like digital courses a little bit better.
And that's what I was going to say. But you make more money from your digital courses than you do from momentum, right?
Yes. And that's why you're right. So that's why for me, it makes more sense. I can reach more people with my digital course, and I do make more money with my digital courses. However, once you really get into it, I mean, I'm 11 years in, it definitely is not just about the money anymore. And there is something I really want to see my students who have worked so hard and invested money in me. I want to see them succeed over and over again. So there's a satisfaction with that Momentum membership, and it is very profitable, but just, you're right, not as profitable as my digital courses.
Yeah, I always tell people that a lot of my things, I now have a mastermind that I'm running, and I have my membership. Those are almost passion projects for me, because that's not where I'm making my money. Actually, I'm still, you don't want to hear this, but I'm still making my money off stuff that's not even a digital course. It's my legal templates is where 65% of my revenue continues to come from.
Impressive, though. It's impressive.
No matter what I do, I can do nothing. I can put effort in. We make money there. So that's good. But yeah, so I did want to bring that point home. But let me ask you this. If someone were starting to build a digital business generally, what would you say is kind of the first product that they should be figuring out? Is it an expensive digital course? Is it a low price digital course? Where do you think most new entrepreneurs should focus their attention?
Such a great question. So when I teach digital courses, I teach 3 different types of courses. You've got a starter course, a spotlight course, and a signature course. So in a quick nutshell, a starter course is helping your students get their feet wet. It's like a 101 type of course, typically around $47 to $97, but there's some wiggle room there. But you're getting them started. You're getting them results, but just getting started type results so that they feel like, wait, I could really do this. This is really helpful. A spotlight course is taking one idea and going really deep. So here's an example. My first starter course was a Facebook 101 type of course. It was $97. It was called FB Influence way back in the day. Now, my spotlight course came out of the fact that when I did my 101 course, my students said, yeah, Amy, we love this Facebook 101 marketing type course, but what we really want to know is how to do Facebook ads. Can you really drill down on Facebook advertising? So my second course was a spotlight course, and it was called FB Ads Insider, where I went deep into Facebook advertising, and I was able to charge a few $100s more for that because it was so specialized and got bigger results than just a starter course. Now, once I did that, then I started to hear my students say, you know what we really want is we really want the whole shebang, like a Facebook marketing, social media marketing plan that we can put in place that kind of covers it all. And so from there, I created my Profit Lab program. It used to be called Facebook Marketing Profit Lab. And then it was called Profit Lab. That was my signature course that I charged more for. And so for me, it was, you don't have to go in that progression, but it really did happen. When you listen to your audience, they'll tell you what they want. They'll never tell you what they want if you don't first start creating something and putting it out there. That's why we always say, just ship it in Seth Godin style. Just ship it, because once it's out there, they'll tell you if they like it or they don't like it, or they like it, but they also want this or that. And that's how I've built my entire business, listening to my audience. And I think that's why I've been so profitable, because I do listen to them. And then I say, you asked for this, here you go. And so that for me has helped. So if you're just starting from scratch with a digital course, I always say start with the starter course. It's less modules, less content. It's a 101 type program. You get people's feet wet, just jump in and get them results. They'll tell you what they want next.
Yeah, I love all that, but I got to be honest with you. You know what I like best about a starter course?
What?
And you're not going to like hearing this.
He's a rule breaker, you guys. So whatever he's going to say. Okay, what are you going to say?
So what I like is that it's like, it's low risk. So if it flops, you're not going to be like devastated. Yes. Whereas if you build like an 8-module signature course that you spend 6 months building and it flops, well, first of all, that's 6 months of your life, but also a lot of people aren't willing to let go.
Yes.
And I think that's one of the good things about a starter course, because I've tried a lot of things that didn't work. I got to be honest. And I can top you, Amy. You talk about your first failed launch. When was that first course you launched? How long ago was that? It had
to have been in 2010.
Yeah. And how much did you make on that launch?
$267 whopping dollars.
Well, yeah, but you've heard my story. My first launch, I decided I was going to launch a course, the legal stuff for entrepreneurs. And I said, there's this lady, Amy, and she teaches you how to build a course, but I can figure it out. I don't need to do it on my own. So I did. I spent about $25,000 all in on software, Facebook ads, everything. I made one sale, $697. And she asked for a refund on day 29 of a 30-day refund policy.
I would die. And Bobby, this is such a great story because two things. Number one, you definitely don't have to spend $25,000 on your first digital course. And you learn that. And number two, you are still here and you are very successful. Most people would say, oh, this isn't for me. I'm not cut out for online marketing. No one bought my course. That is not true. We all have failures. Now, of course, I try to teach my students how to sidestep many of those failures. I gave them a course that I wish I had, but still, sometimes it happens. And if you get back up, you can still be incredibly successful.
Yeah. And what I think is the honest truth is almost all of us who are successful would tell you we have battle scars. We have battle wounds. Yes. Most people are not as dumb as me to spend $25,000 on their first course launch. And I tell people not to do that. But I do love that. And another thing, you talk a lot about webinars.
Yes.
And I got to be honest with you, and you're not going to be mad about it. Okay. But I'm actually going to have a few episodes from now about why most webinars suck.
Yeah.
But I want you to tell my audience why you love webinars so much.
Okay, this is a great topic, and Bobby knows this is a sensitive topic with me, and he jokes with me all the time about it. So I'll give you guys a little backstory. So basically, I have been using webinars since the days that I worked for Tony Robbins. My very first webinar was with Tony. It was his first webinar as well. And so we had a few flops during that time to get me to a place where I felt really confident with webinars. But once I got the hang of it, I realized, holy cow, the reason I love webinars so much is that you get to give before you ever ask for anything in return. And as you give over 45 minutes of pure training, your personality comes through, the trust comes through, the connection comes through. Back in the day when I started webinars, we never turned our camera on. Now I encourage my students to at least show their face a little bit, if not a lot throughout a webinar, because of that connection. And so you give before you ask for anything in return. And I teach my students that whatever you're teaching in that webinar, the next logical step is, hey, if you love this, then you're going to love my course where I will teach you exactly how to get the results that you want. So there's, of course, a slide-by-slide formula that I follow and teach my students, but it really comes down to connection and personality and trust, and webinars will do that. I think there's other alternatives you can do, like a 3-part video series, a challenge, a quiz, all these different things you can add to it. But at the end of the day, it's the webinar that's going to convert, in my opinion, the very best. So a lot of my friends, my peers who have had multi-million-dollar launches still do not believe that the number one driver of all my launches 11 years later is a webinar, and it's the same webinar I do 4 or 5 times over a 2-week period in order to introduce my audience to the topic that I'm teaching. But a lot of people are scared to do webinars. So Bobby knows it's a sore subject for me in my groups when they'll be like, Amy, I launched my course. I did okay. I did $5,000. I didn't do webinars, but I did okay. And I'm like, do you know what you could have done if you've done webinars? So Bobby likes to jump in my group and literally just leave a random comment, but do I need to do a webinar? And I'm just like, I'm going to just slap that man.
but so in defense, like the reason like why I joke about that is last year in 2019, when I was just selling my legal templates, I did a webinar the first time I launched it. And then I discovered for that particular offer, a webinar was not right. But it was
Makes
not
sense.
Yeah, it was not because some other launch was right. It was because, quite honestly, teaching just put an impediment in the way. People just want the templates and that's it. They don't want to learn it. So I get that. But what I love, honestly, about webinars, because I love doing it. I could crank out a webinar. The first time I ever did one was literally like 3 days after I was on your, or actually it was the day after my first episode on your podcast went live.
Yeah.
It was my first successful launch. But I also threw it together in 3 days because I love webinars. But
that's so awesome. Plus, your personality is so perfect for webinars. There's a few different personalities that work for webinars. Yours definitely does, because you're not afraid to just get up there and talk and make a fool of yourself and tease about yourself. And you're just really humble in that way. And that makes all the stress of a webinar go away.
Yeah, that's true. But and I do make fun of myself. I make fun of other people. I make fun of lots of things in webinars. People love my slide decks because oftentimes I just have a wacky picture and people are like, what in the world is he talking about here? So that's good. But what I wanted to say, you know what I like about webinars versus a challenge or a 3-part video series?
What's that?
They are the most versatile. I believe a 3-part video series is great if you have a 7-figure business. But for most people starting out, I'm like, you're going to do a 3-part video series. Explain this to me. I don't get it. And also, if you're ever going to go evergreen, to me, a webinar is the only thing that really works evergreen.
It works so well with evergreen. That's something that I teach my students. I always say, do a few webinars live. Once you have been doing well with converting, turn that into evergreen so you don't have to do it live. So you're right. Webinars work really well evergreen as well.
Yeah. So, okay. So I do have to ask you a couple of other things before we wrap up. Number one, you did something right now, or I guess you finished it up now. Digital Course Academy has come out twice now. You've launched it twice. You're launching it again in about a month. And for some reason, you redid the content. Tell me
everything. Why. Okay, so here's the deal. I don't suggest that my students redo their courses over and over again. And because I've been in this game for a long time, when we talk about me redoing my content, we're talking lots of money because I hire a professional crew to help me do it. That's not how you create your first course, for the record, and not needed. However, because I've been in this game a long time and I teach it, I do bring a professional crew in to record my videos. So it was expensive to redo it. So I had to really think, is this what I want to do? However, I have launched this twice, and we're talking thousands and thousands of students who have gone through Digital Course Academy. And like I said, I really pay attention to what my students are doing and what's working for them. We have tons of success stories, but what I realize with those success stories is, one, most students are taking what I'm teaching them and making it even simpler and getting big results. So I made the program simpler to get through and get results. Number two, a lot of my students wanted to pre-sell their course. They wanted to make money before they created it. I was always against it. I was on my high horse thinking, no, you've got to create the course first just to make sure you get it all locked in. It's more stressful if you launch it first. And then I watched student after student actually pre-sell, make some good money, and then create it week by week and deliver it week by week. I paid close attention and thought, okay, I hear you all. Let's do this. So I created a course where you can first pre-sell it, make some money, validate the idea, and then create it. So the last thing you do in my entire Digital Course Academy program is you actually are creating the course week by week and delivering it. I'll teach you all the marketing, the webinars, everything before that. And this is exactly what my students wanted. So I couldn't help myself. I'm like, I've got to re-record this course because I need to teach people how to pre-sell. And I just wanted to make it simpler. I want people to get to the finish line faster.
So I think you just didn't want me to be a rule breaker. Because I pre-sold my email course. I had this idea last September to create a course. I was going to do it. Then I got talked out of it. And then I decided in March, and in typical me fashion, I had it mapped out. I said, you know what? I'm going to launch this thing. And like a week and a half later, I was doing webinars. I pre-sold it, created it week by week as I was doing it. So
I love it.
I followed your new method without you having your new method.
Of course you did. You broke the rules. And then I said, well, I'll show you, Bobby. These are the new rules.
Yeah. I'm sure you were thinking just about me at that moment.
Totally.
But so another thing, though, that I hear you may have some guests teaching a few things in your program.
Yes and yes.
What is some of the stuff other than course creation that you cover in Digital Course Academy these days?
Okay. So I'm going to tell you 3 things. Number 1, Facebook advertising. So many of my students want to know, well, can I run ads to fill up my webinars? And I teach them how to do that. Another thing is social media. How do you use social media to fill up my webinars and to sell my courses? So the first one, Facebook ads, is taught by Salome. You and I both know her well. So she's a Facebook ad expert and she'll teach. The second thing I hear about is social media. How do I use social media to fill up the webinar? Our own Jasmine Starr, my dear, dear friend, is teaching all about how to do that. Now, the third one, this one might be questionable, but I get tons of questions about legal stuff when it comes to creating your course. Like, all the questions. Bobby, what are some of the questions that often come up around creating a digital course in the legal part of it?
Well, there's a lot of them, but a lot of people have questions about things like the promise. Trademark. Yeah, a lot of people have that. And actually, that's a funny story we should talk about, because you originally were not going to call Digital Course Academy Digital Course Academy.
Right.
You were going to call it Online Course Academy.
Exactly.
But someone's already using that, right?
Yep. Someone else is using it. And so instead of making a big deal about it, I just changed the name.
And the funny thing is, like sitting here today, and this is one of the things I teach people, is I say, pick a different name.
Yes.
Because can you imagine it being called Online Course Academy now?
No, like Digital Course Academy feels so right to me. And you guys, what's so funny about that is I always said create online courses. I always called it that. The minute I couldn't get the name, it was like, change your language. And it was a no-brainer for me. I don't spend a lot of time, and you'll learn this in my program, of naming the course. I don't think it's one of the most important things you can do. I'll teach you the important stuff that will make you money. But we go through this one quickly. But yeah, like trademark and what other stuff? Well, so obviously, Bobby's our resident lawyer inside of DCA. He teaches all the legal stuff, did a whole training on it because it started to come up so much. We needed it.
Yeah. So a lot of people get confused about, like, how can I use the testimonial and things literally like, but I can't promise them these results because you talk about your course promise. And I say, yes, a course promise is different from a promise. You're saying I'm going to teach you the method that other people have used to get these results, but I can't promise you're going to get the same results. So we go through all of those things. There's a lot of little nuances that come in, and we just wanted to make it simple. And this originally came up, listeners, if you haven't been here a long time, I was an ambassador for Amy the first 2 times the program launched, and the questions kept coming up the first time. So you had me literally just do a Q&A. We did a live Q&A.
Yeah.
And that was great, but I think this training will be a little bit better. Although I did joke about this. Me doing a training on your slide decks, there's a bit of a mismatch there in style.
Okay, I will say my slide decks definitely have a feminine flair to them. Although I try to stay away from anything too girly, it definitely, when Bobby's using them, that must have felt a little bit weird to you.
Yeah, I used a lot of the yellow, and I think it's like a forest green. I use that a lot more than the pink. And
that's okay.
So, but no, it was a lot of fun doing that because I enjoy doing it. And again, all the people you have come teach are great and do amazing things. So why wouldn't I want to, as a thank you?
Yeah.
Let me ask you one last question, and then I'm gonna let you go.
Okay.
For people who have a business of some sort, like a service provider or something like that, how should they go about thinking about adding a digital course to their business?
I actually love this question, and I'm glad we're wrapping up with this one because it's important. So obviously my business is selling digital courses in one membership. However, let's say you're a coach, a consultant, some kind of service provider, web design, copywriting, dog training, yoga instructor, like it runs the gamut. You should see how many different types of topics have been successful inside a Digital Course Academy. Let's say that you like to teach, you like to be a consultant or a coach of some kind, or you like your service-based business. If you add a digital course to the mix, 2 things happen. Number 1, you can take less clients. And let's be honest, we all have a few clients that we'd rather not work with because they're kind of a pain in the butt. I hate to say it, but when I was a consultant, definitely I had a few clients that I could live without. And so now you get to start taking less clients because you're making money in your digital course. Number 2, you typically want to start charging more for your one-on-one work because that becomes premium. That becomes exclusive because you've got this digital course. Now, let's talk about this digital course. A lot of people who do one-on-one coaching and consulting, they'll take their process, their framework that they use one-on-one with clients, and they turn that into a digital course. Now, the first thing that most people say is, but Amy, I can't possibly turn that into a digital course. When I work with someone one-on-one, I'm in there with them. It's very personal. I ask them questions. I get their feedback. I create the process around them. That is a limiting belief. You can definitely take the framework and put it into a digital course. I have seen it done over and over and over again. And I've got examples inside Digital Course Academy to teach that. Now, the second thing is, let's say you're a web designer and you think, Amy, why would I teach somebody how to be their own web designer? I won't get any clients. Remember, you don't want all the clients. You want to scale the business. You want to take a few clients so that you're not maxed and stressed out all the time. And then anybody else who can't afford you or you choose not to work with, you have a digital course that will teach them how to get started in whatever area you want. And so you could have a digital course actually teaching what you do one-on-one, or you can have a digital course that might be different than what you do one-on-one, but it's something people have asked for over and over again. The bottom line is a digital course will make you more money than just doing one-on-one client work. So having both or just having digital courses, if you want to get rid of the one-on-one, it definitely is a very smart business model.
Yeah, I can attest, like my first Facebook ads manager was someone who first I took her course and then I was like, I'm just going to hire this person because I didn't want to do it anymore.
Yes.
And so that I think is a classic model for a service provider. You're too expensive. You're too expensive for some people. That was why I did the legal templates. It's the same thing. People can't afford me now. I don't want to do that anymore. Let me be clear. Don't try to hire me. I don't take clients, but it's a great way to bring people in. So I appreciate that. Thank you for that. Now, Amy, I before I brought you on in the intro, I talked about it, but I want you to describe to my audience what and I'm going to get the name wrong.
You want me to get it right? The Course Creation Starter Kit.
There you go. I was going to say the Digital Course Starter Kit, but yeah, what is it? And tell my audience, what it is if they go and grab their copy.
Okay, so it's totally free, and I have poured over this Course Creation Starter Kit to help anybody get started with their first digital course. So here's what I do. It's a pretty meaty guide, and first I go over how to choose a course topic. So figuring out what you want to teach and how you want to teach it. Number 2, how to choose a course title. Remember, this is not something we're going to go down an entrepreneurial rabbit hole with, but I love to give ideas when I teach. So I'm going to show you a bunch of ideas for a course topic so you do stand out above the noise and don't get lost online with your course. And then the third is that I'm going to teach you different ways to create a course. So starter, spotlight, signature. I get into those in the starter kit, and I really give you some ideas around what you might want to create, and then a bunch of examples as well. It's the perfect place. You got to grab this perfect place to start your digital course journey.
Yeah. So listeners, again, you can grab that by heading over to bobbyklink.com/starter kit, bobbyklink.com/starter kit. It'll take you over to Amy's website and you can get it and you'll have it. Amy, thank you for coming on the show. It was a pleasure. And thank you for being my second three-peat guest.
I am honored. Thank you so much, Bobby. You are a true friend, and I am so glad that I got to be here. So thanks again.
Okay, listeners, that's it. I'll be back again on Friday and then again next week for another episode of the Certified Badass Online Marketing Podcast. Talk to you then. That's it for this episode of the Certified Badass Online Marketing Podcast. Make sure to tune in next time. And in the meantime, go out and build the badass business of your dreams.